Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj, very much for joining us on this podcast. And first of all, I'd like to say that I prefer to be sitting at your lotus feet rather than at an equal chair, so please forgive me for that. But thank you so much for coming, and I would like to just say that it's an honor for you to be here, and I rarely ever get to see you here in the U.S. So when you do come, it's always a pleasure. And so I am so happy to be able to sit down and learn more about you and talk about your experiences.
So I'd like to say that I'm humbled to be able to have this opportunity to speak about my spiritual masters, and also to speak about my life, that I am coming from very humble beginnings actually. And even right now, I'm in a very humble state. So when you say that you're humble to be in my association, this and that, the honest truth is, I'm just a dude from New York.
Mars, that's your kindness and humility. But I think as we get to know you, we'll realize that who you really are and all the wonderful experiences that you've had. And so without further ado, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, your childhood maybe, and how you sort of came to Krishna consciousness.
Okay, so I was born in New York. My father is from Nigeria, and he was studying in America. He met my mother, who is from South America originally, but lived in America. And when I was 3, we went back to Nigeria. And when I was 12, in 1967, there was a war, Biafran War, which started and we had to leave the country. And I came back to America and studied, went to high school, started university. But growing up in New York, I was a bit wild, especially since my father didn't live in America. My father preferred to stay in Africa. He worked for a bank, African Development Bank, which was part of the UN, World Bank. And so we had 2 homes. So I was very, very crazy living in New York, living in the streets of New York.
And
so
what year was this?
This was, I graduated in 1973 from high school. So at that time we were living in the suburbs in New Jersey, but we were living in the suburbs in New Jersey. I was living in a white neighborhood, but I used to go every day into Harlem, buy heroin, sell heroin. It was crazy life. And then I went to university in Boston, Tufts University, and still I was studying. I was a bit of a soccer star, but I was still dibbling and dabbling with heroin. So when my father came back he was in the Ivory Coast at that time. When he came back, he found out what I was doing. So he immediately pulled me out of America and took me back to Ivory Coast and then Nigeria. And then later he put me in university in the UK.
Okay, so you did most of your university in the UK, is that correct?
Yeah, actually I had all my credits, but I was so intoxicated that I couldn't get my head around accounting.
Did you study accounting?
I studied business administration, economics.
Very interesting, okay.
Yeah, so the business administration, economics was easy for me because I come from that kind of a background, so I could easily do my reports. But when it came to accounting, the numbers were just floating all over the place. I couldn't focus.
Okay, so you went to university is it London?
Yeah, it's an American university in London. We use the University of London premises, but it's called Schiller College. They have campuses in London, Germany, France, different places, and they cater to kind of well-to-do Americans who wanted to study abroad.
And you were alone at this time, meaning your parents were not in the UK?
My parents, at this time, both my parents were in Nigeria.
Okay,
Yeah.
So you're definitely alone at this point.
Mm.
So tell me then what happened.
So I was in London, and prior to that, I was in Nigeria, and what happened? My father, he got swindled. You know, in Nigeria, they have a thing where they have the Nigerian scams. My father got scammed big time.
Oh.
My father got scammed big time. and they put some black magic on my father, and he was like completely bewildered. So I come from New York, come from the streets of New York, and I think that everything can be sorted out. And I told my dad, let me get involved. And the people then put black magic on me, and I was completely nuts. And in this state of mind, then I came to England to study. And I was just getting progressively crazy and crazier and crazier. And I was looking for some kind of relief. I started to go to church. I went to so many different spiritual groups, and nothing helped. And I got a letter from my mother, and she said, well, if you're looking for spirituality, I recommend that you look towards the Eastern religions, and I think you'll get some help that way. So that was kind of like a direction for me.
So you didn't grow up in like a sort of Christian background, or?
Yeah, I was brought up a Catholic, even went to Catholic school as a youth, was baptized, confirmed, the whole thing. But at a certain point in my life, my mother, she wasn't pleased with the church, and she just said that if she found institutional religion hypocritical, and she just said, find your way.
Wow, so interesting. So she told you to look at the Eastern religions, and you were somewhat interested in spirituality, obviously.
Not really. I was only looking towards spirituality just as a means to get relief. The truth of the matter is that growing up, I was a party animal. In America, I was a party animal, and I was removed from America just to be away from that influence. And I went to England, and in England, I was partying. In Africa, I was partying. And spirituality wasn't something I was looking for, actually. I only looked towards spirituality just to get relief from my suffering.
So then how did you come into contact with Krishna consciousness?
When I was in Nigeria, I was in a room of one of my friends, and we were just getting high as normal. And he had a book, Sri Upanishad, and I picked up the book, and I was trying to make heads or tails of it, but I couldn't understand it. So then when I went to London, and after getting that advice from my mother, soon after that, I was on Oxford Street, and I heard the chanting, I heard the Harinam party, and then I went towards them, and I saw a group of Western men and ladies chanting, and I followed them back. Actually, there was a lady with a baby, and I started to chat her up, and she said, come back to the temple. And I went back to the temple, and then the devotees, they gave me some books, Science of Self-Realization, Bhagavad Gita. Immediately I started reading, and everything resonated. I could understand it. In fact, I used to read the Bhagavad Gita and then have questions, and the next time I pick it up, Prabhupada in his purport would just answer my question. Wow. And then I started chanting. And chanting, then my lunacy just started to dissipate. All my madness started to go with every mantra, and that was amazing, because I tried so many ways and means to become free from these heavy influences. But just Hare Krishna, and everything just started to clear up, and it was like, hallelujah. Hallelujah. I was crying in ecstasy just from the relief, basically.
And so you were chanting not only with the temple devotees, but also on your own. You were so attracted to it.
I wasn't chanting, I was screaming, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I went berserk. I had a room in a house with other Nigerian people in the east end of London, Dalton Junction, actually. And mostly they understand what goes on with mystical things. So then they came knocking on my door. Obi, that's my name. Obi, are you okay? Everything they okay? I say, everything they good now. Everything they good. And I just kept on chanting, and I wouldn't stop chanting. And by this, I just became sane. So the temple became my refuge. I was pretty much living in the temple all the time, even though I was still a student at university.
And this was, so you were around 20, 21, something like this?
Yeah, by this time, I was about 22, 23. Okay. Yeah.
And so then, what happened? You decided to...
So it was summer break from university, and the devotees, they told me that they had a place, Bhaktivedanta Manor, in Watford. And at that time, the devotees used to do marathons. There were book distribution marathons, and they also had devotee-making marathons. And they used to have newsletters, how many big books you did, how many medium-sized books, how many small books, etc. And they also used to have the devotee making marathon, and they used to have seeker points, how many heads got shaved. So they were keen to get me up to the manor and to shave me up. And also, I had a bit of a background. Came from an influential African family. My father was an influential person in society. So they said, look, this person, he's a prince. His father works with the UN. This is a big seeker. So they sent me up to...
Catch him, huh?
Yeah, they sent me up to the manor. And the manor was great. The manor was so good. I used to stay up till 9, 10, 11 o'clock just washing pots at night and chanting. And after 2 weeks, I shaved up.
Wow. And they're all sort of like-minded young devotees at this time, is that right?
Yeah. So many devotees were being made. Even, Salva who did that song, but he joined at the same time. There were we used to have about 10, 15 devotees on the Bhakti program at one time. And you go for 2 months. When you leave, then another group would be coming in. And it was going, because London was a great place for making devotees. Mm-hmm. So they'd have a team down in London making devotees. They'd send us up to Watford for training. And then we end up doing service.
So then you stayed for 2 months at the manor?
I stayed for 2 months, and then I ended up just staying permanently. And then when my mother found out, then my mother... She left. My parents live in a remote village. By this time, they'd moved to the village, a remote village like 10 hours from Lagos. So she got on a plane from Lagos, and immediately she flew over, and she said, "Look, we spent so much money." Because I was really bad. I mean, I was really, really bad. When I was young, my friends, I still meet my friends, and they tell me things that I did, and just outrageous. So, and my mother, she just always had my back. She just always had my back. And she said, and this is what you do? You become a Hare Krishna? And then I said, Mom, just come and just check it out. So then she came, she lived in the manor. She got up for Mangalati. She was making garlands, following the program. Because my mom is very eclectic. She's very open-minded.
And she's from South America?
She's from Guyana.
Yeah.
Okay. And then after 2 weeks at the manor, she said, this place is good for you. You stay here.
Wow.
Yeah, and my father back in the village, he also supported. In fact, Brahmananda Swami, he was good friends with my father. Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, they used to go to my parents' house. In fact, my mother, she was one of the founding members of the Hare Krishna. And my father had the idea to get land from the village and start a varnashram system for the devotees. Back then, even though he wasn't a devotee, he just had this concept. He even went to the villages to get the land.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you said your mother was a founding member in the village of...
No, in the country, Nigeria. When Brahmananda Swami went to Nigeria, then the contact that he had was my family. Because I was a devotee, there was no Hare Krishna. So he went there to my parents, and they put him up, took care of him. Later on, Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, he came afterwards. So when he wanted to found the movement, so my mother became the secretary. And there were incidents where Nigerian people would try to take the movement away from the devotees. And invariably it was my mother who would save the day. My mother, she's pretty fierce, actually.
Okay.
So she's like the mother of the Hare Krishna movement of West Africa.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Mm. And so you stayed at the manor for 2 months during this training program.
Yeah.
And you loved it. Then your mother approved it, your father approved it. Then what happened? So then after this 2-month training, what's sort of the next step?
Then I went out on book distribution.
In London?
I went out on book distribution, not just in London, but we used to have vans that would go to different parts. One van would have northern England, where they'd have Yorkshire, Lancashire. Another would have Essex, etc., etc. So I went out in one of those vans, and because my genes are such that I'm a natural Vaishya, so book distribution was it was
natural.
so natural. It was so natural for me, actually. And even I still had some of my mystic tricks, and I had one bag which I had stashed, and it had some kind of magical thing in it called word is the power, that if you take it, then anybody you talk to, then it will convince them. And I told him, I said, look, I have this thing. If I go on book distribution, I'm going to sell so many books.
Wait, so now you have to tell me a little bit more about this. What do you mean by magic tricks and word is power? If you take
so basically what happened is when I was getting attacked by black magic, so then one of my friends took me to somebody else who had black magic so that I would get protection.
Okay.
You see? So in lieu of getting protection, so then I was given different things that I could use in that realm. So this was one of the things.
Okay, so you sold. Okay.
I was dibbling and dabbling.
Okay, so but you sold a lot of books, or you distributed.
No, I threw away the potion. Okay. I never used it actually.
Okay.
They told me to throw away, and it's like Sanatana Goswami in the touchstone.
Ah, yes.
You know, it's like you had the touchstone, but I've got something better, but you have to throw this away. So I threw it away, and I just took shelter of Harinam.
Wow, and so you're spending years of doing this book distribution in the van, or?
I did book distribution maybe for like 30 odd years.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I practically lived in the van. I didn't even really know what it was like to live in a temple, because we would just travel in our vans for 2 weeks, and then we'd come back every second week or so, load up again, have some rip-roaring kirtans, and then hit the road. And I lived like that. I lived in a van basically most of my devotional life.
Wow, okay. So you're going out, you're doing all this book distribution. It's sort of a crazy life, I guess. Sort of a very active lifestyle, and always on the go, always on the move, always the next town, next place, next program.
It's the best life. Absolutely the best life. Because there were maybe 3-4 of us living in a van. It was done up so that we had boards up top, the books were underneath, we had our cooking utensils underneath, and we'd get up in the morning, we'd have mangalati, we'd do our japa, all in a van. You go for a little japa walk, and this is like England in the wintertime. Sometimes we're in Ireland where it was freezing cold, right? And then we'd go out and distribute books for like 6-8 hours a day, and you just had to be, first of all, you had to chant really good rounds to get your mind focused, and your mind had to be really strong to be able to endure that austerity. It was like such hard austerity, but the ecstasy that came from it, even though one is still full of anarthas, haven't come to the state of nishta, ruchi, anything like that, but the potency that came from Prabhupada's book distribution, and the books, you know, living with Srimad Bhagavatam, holding Srimad Bhagavatam all day, speaking the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, giving Srimad Bhagavatam to people, Krishna Swadhamapagate, Dhamma Genadi Bisaha, that this is directly Krishna, that those who really surrender to it, then realization will come that this Bhagavatam is none different from Krishna. Bhagavatam will give that realization in a very, very powerful way. In a very powerful way. I think the best days I've had in my existence in this material world was when I was in those vans selling books.
Wow.
Yeah.
These days.
And I've had great days in devotional service, but the best, I think, were those days.
Wow. And these days, it's so rare to see devotees go out for book distribution in that manner.
Yeah, very rare.
Now it's totally different.
It's, yeah.
So book distribution, you can say maybe Srila Prabhupada, his mercy is present right there.
Absolutely. I never met Srila Prabhupada, but in my life, I was initiated by 3 different gurus in ISKCON. 2 of them fell down. And it was my relationship with Srila Prabhupada that saw me through. And I never flinched an inch in my execution devotion service through those times when those gurus fell down because of my relationship with Srila Prabhupada. And I'm absolutely sure, and I have experience of how he was guiding me, how he was my father, my grandfather, and my commander-in-chief. Because when you're in the Sankirtan party, you're in the army. It's the army. And if you can't do it, then you have to do something else.
So when you're going out for book distribution, you had already taken initiation by this time, is that correct? Or
Initially, no. Initially, I wasn't initiated. But then after maybe some months, 6 months, a year, something like that, then we took initiation. And at that time, there was a zonal acharya, so everybody took from the same person.
Okay.
You don't necessarily know who that person is personally. You don't have a personal relationship. But, it's the system. And I didn't necessarily want to take from the person, but my Sankirtan leader, he said, go on, just take from him. And we just went through that process.
Okay. So when you went for book distribution, you're doing this for years and years and years. Then what happened?
Well, at one point, I wanted to have my own type of situation, my own preaching center. So I went to a friend of mine. He advised me to go to Birmingham, and there I opened a preaching center in Birmingham. But basically, our preaching center was just a book distribution hub. So I was the temple president, and I had my devotees with me, and all of us went out on book distribution 7 days a week. We even, on Sundays, we go out and do Sunday markets from 6 a.m. to 12 o'clock midday. We come back, cook, and then have the Sunday program at 3 o'clock. And we just had our temple room and storeroom were just like stocked up with books, and we used to distribute a phenomenal amount of books. Everybody went out. So basically, it was a non-moving Sankirtan van.
So basically, your focus is 100% on book distribution at this point.
Yes.
And everything is revolving around that, and you're finding taste in that, you're finding ecstasy, as you mentioned.
Too much taste. Yeah. So
can you share with one experience? You said it was the best days. You had ecstasy. Could you?
One time, I was south of Birmingham after some time, I used to sell books in the petrol station, gas stations. How you say in America? Gas stations? Yeah, when you're in England we say motorway. You say freeway?
Freeway.
Yeah, when you're in the freeway, you have these stops, right? So then we used to sell books at these stations. So outside of Birmingham, south side, there's a place called Corley Services, and it was a December marathon. So December marathon, especially, we would stay out all night, basically. We'd get up in the morning, and there were times where we would stay out till like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, come back in the van, chant our rounds, take a shower, and be back out. We wouldn't even sleep. This was our life. So one time I was in Corley Services, and I was distributing Srimad Bhagavatam. We had first canto, part 1, part 2, part 3, small books for distribution, small Bhagavatams, hardback, but smaller size. And I was speaking to somebody, and then presenting the Bhagavatam, and the Bhagavatam just started to glow. And it literally just, it just manifested an effulgence. And it just went in, I just got overwhelmed with compassion for the person who I was selling the book to, and just started weeping. These types of experiences, I hardly speak about this actually, and this is going public. Yeah.
But this is what we would like to hear, because we don't get to hear this much, especially these unique experiences when you're doing such intense seva.
The Bhagavatam was glowing. It was glowing. It was just like, and it wasn't anything in my mind. It was just like, it just had an effulgence that was radiating. And then all of a sudden, I got a realization of how these people were suffering in the world. And then my heart just melted, and I just started to weep. This is book distribution.
So you're collecting, in my opinion, you're collecting all this mercy from Srila Prabhupada during all these maybe decades of book distribution. And, you're going through the temple, you're temple president at this point, you have a higher position, you have your people underneath you, devotees underneath you. Then sort of what happens?
What happens? Many things happens. One, in between that time, my first spiritual master had fallen down, Jai Tirtha. The second spiritual master, who was also the zonal acharya, Bhagavan, he also fell down. And so I was the temple president, but no guru. So all my devotees had gurus, and I didn't have guru.
So they were not part of the same zonal system?
They came after Bhagavan had fallen down.
Okay.
So when I moved, when I opened the temple, I didn't have any guru.
Wow.
You see, so there were many devotees who were in that situation because in Mass we took initiation from Jai Tirtha and then Bhagavan, both fell down. And so many of us weren't willing to really take that step again. But those of us who were still active in devotional service, we'd been around for like 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 years, whatever. So we had positions in the society, but we didn't have any guru. So I was one of those persons. I was a temple president, but I didn't have any guru. So I felt that I would just keep on serving like this, and that I wouldn't take initiation again, and I would just leave my body, and next life I will continue. I understood that I required a guru to have that relationship, to make my bhakti strong, to achieve the goal of bhav and prem. I understood that, but I said, I've done my bit. I'm not going that route anymore. I'm just going to do my service and just wait till next life.
Lack of trust in the system, essentially.
Lack of trust. It wasn't lack of
Maybe
trust,
in the
not in the system. It just that I just went through that. I was unfortunate. I missed Srila Prabhupada by 1 year. I joined in 1978. Prabhupada left in 1977. So to be honest, I was having too much of a good time to really lament or think that, oh, this person did me or that. I didn't feel that way at all, actually. I never felt that way about the personalities who I took shelter of. Because first of all, I never had personal relationships with them. We were in an institutional type situation. You take initiation, you really don't know that person. I was living in a van, okay? And they were living in the temple or temples, and they had their situation and I had my situation. They had their upland situation, I had my simple situation, but my simple situation was uplands to me. And so I felt sorry for them, not for me, basically. So I was going on like this, and then I went in when was it? Something like, I forget, when they had when they were opening of the Krishna Balaram Mandir or the Pran Pratishtha for Lord Nityananda. And then I went there and I met Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja. So I had some friends who were his disciples. This was in Bhubaneswar.
Oh, Bhubaneswar.
This was in Bhubaneswar. And at that time, one of my friends said, ask him a question. And then I asked the question, I said, what happens if somebody's spiritual master falls down, and then another spiritual master falls down? Then he just takes shelter of Srila Prabhupada and carries on devotional service, and he can achieve perfection that way. I didn't really believe that. But Ritvik philosophy was very prevalent, just coming up at that time, and I just thought I'd just throw that out there. Even though in my heart I knew I required a guru, and then she'll go, ha ha ha, Ore Baba, you want to pick flower from the sky? Huh? Phantasmagoria, you need guru. And he was like, boom! I went, whoa! I said, oh, I'm not coming back here again. I mean, I intellectually accepted what he was saying, but it was so heavy. It was so heavy on me. It just crushed me. And then somebody's coming up. And then after that, I left. And by this time, we had stopped selling books. And we were selling paintings to maintain the temples. And I came back late one night at 12 o'clock, and there was a bunk bed, and there was a cassette player, and I took the cassette. It belonged to the person above me who was a disciple of Srila Gour, and then I was listening to the tape, and Srila Gour Maharaj was speaking about Sharanagati, about surrender, and I just started to shake, because I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to surrender to this person. And the truth is that from the time, even before I could walk, I've never surrendered to anybody in my life. I've always been an independent person. I've never ever surrendered to anybody. And now I knew this is the real deal. And so in due course of time, my relationship started to develop with Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja. And another time I went to Bhubaneswar, and I was thinking that I was a temple president, right? And I was thinking that I would wait 2 years and develop my relationship with him and then take initiation. So that time I was going, initiation was coming up maybe in a few days or something like that. And then my friend, one of his disciples, he talked to me, we talked, and he kind of suggested that maybe I should take initiation, maybe I put forward the idea. He said, yes, you should do it. And then
This was the one with the tape?
No, this was another friend. This was another friend.
Okay.
This was a Kinchana Prabhu. So then the Kinchana said, yes, you should go. And then before I knew it, I had put myself forward. Now I was a temple president. I had devotees under me who were initiated. And they were initiated by somebody else who was actually speaking against, he wasn't speaking outwardly, but he was acting in a subversive way towards Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj.
Okay.
So in the classes, and from Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj, I learned Guru Tattva. So I would hammer these poor young fellas. Prem Prayojan was one of them. I hammered them for like months on what it was like to take shelter of a guru that was not bona fide.
Oh, wow.
And how one should be very careful about who they approach for guru, and that you have to go through a testing period before you take initiation, so that you feel you have confidence in yourself that this is a personality, supreme personality servant to Godhead, and they also have confidence in you as a bona fide disciple. So I was hammering this day after day after day after day after day. I was relentless, actually. And then now I was in a situation where I had put myself to take initiation, even though the person I was taking from, I 150% knew that he was bona fide. There was no doubt in my mind about that. But because I had been through 2 gurus, my heart was cracked. And because my heart was cracked in such a state that it wasn't easy for me to just put my faith. And here I was prematurely doing it. And I was in my temple saying that this is just what you shouldn't do. And the day of initiation, I was just walking around and I was thinking, oh, how can I do this? This is just like the biggest hypocrisy. And I felt in Bhubaneswar, you have the temple where you walk around the deities, and it's like on the first floor kind of thing, and there's the windows and then there's downstairs, and I just feel like I just want to jump and commit suicide, you know. I don't, because hypocrisy is just a very big thing for me, you know. Even though I'm a hypocrite, but it's a big thing for me. Ever since I was a kid, like the first word I ever knew was hypocrisy, basically.
Right.
So here I was, the big hypocrite. But then all of a sudden, Nam just started to flow from my heart. And it just started to come, just flowing like nectar from my mouth. And then I was walking around, and it was like if my foot wasn't touching the ground. And I just went into another state of existence. And then it was time for initiation. And I was walking down to Srila Gour Maharaj's Bhajan Kutir, where he would hold the initiation. And there was a devotee who was there with me, who had also been through two gurus. And then he looked at me. His name was Atma Srup. He passed away. He said, Govinda, I don't believe you're doing this. And he could understand, and I could understand, because we've both been through 2 gurus, and only somebody who's been through that could understand what it's like. And then I walked in, sat down. Srila Govinda gave me my beads. Now I'm giving you Krishna. You take care very carefully. And then the initiation took place. And then when we were going up to take darshan deities, Srila Govinda Maharaj was walking, and I said, Gurudev, do you know what just happened to me the last 2 hours? He looked, Are Baba! Boom, let's go. And that's it. That was my initiation. Then I got another extraordinary taste of Krishna consciousness, even in the conditioned state. That was amazing.
Wow. Wow. And Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja, then you personally served him. Is that correct? I remember you speaking of that.
I was a temple president in Birmingham. So most of my god brothers and god sisters, they would go to Bhubaneswar and they would stay there for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months and just hear Hare Katha every day. I didn't have that luxury. I was over in Europe serving that way. But one time he came to England and he was a Bhaktivedanta Manor, and the person who was serving him got sick. And then I had the good fortune to be with him that evening, and if he had to go to the bathroom, then I would help him walk to the bathroom because he had problems walking. But that evening, as I mentioned to you yesterday, when he was taking rest, he was sleeping. He was sound asleep, or you can say yoga nidra. And just with every breath, it was Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. It's like every atom of his body was Hare Krishna. It was like completely amazing. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I knew that he was a transcendental personality. I had that strong faith, but to actually witness it was quite amazing. But when he did get up to go to the bathroom, I had fallen asleep, and I missed the chance to do my service.
So that was your basically main time with Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj, or did you spend more time with him?
I would go to Bhubaneswar,
Okay.
and I would spend like a month or two, and that was like really intense.
Can you tell us about him a little bit?
About Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja?
Yes.
I can tell you a little something. So, Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj, he's such a transcendental personality that before he was born, his father used to read the Srimad Bhagavatam from 1st canto to 12th canto every year. So when he was born, when he was within the womb, he was hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Just like Shukadeva Goswami was within the womb of his mother and was hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, he was hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So when he was born and he would cry, just like with Nimai, what would make Nimai stop crying?
Chanting.
Yeah, and what would make Srila Govinda stop crying?
Chanting.
Srimad Bhagavatam.
Srimad.
They put Srimad Bhagavatam, and then he would stop crying. And then when he could read, he could read at a very early age, and the family was very poor. They didn't have any light. So he would, from the light from the kitchen, from the firewood, he would take the books, and then he would sit there at night, and then he would read and read himself to sleep. And he was a voracious reader. I mean, when he was young, like 18, 19 years old, then he took a vrat to read the Vedas. And he would just up all night just reading. And that's how he's so erudite, because he's literally studied the Vedas, you know. And then as a youth, he was always, his family, they were a very famous Kirtan family in Orissa. So it's stated in the diary of Lord Jagannath that whenever they're there, then they should come to the temple and they should do bhajan, do kirtan for Lord Jagannath, Gadai Giri, the Giri family, or from that village. So he would travel with his uncles from village to village, and they would do kirtan. And if his parents would stop him from going, when everybody was asleep, he'd hop out the window and then go meet his family. And he said this was his enjoyment as a kid. Wow. He didn't have any other enjoyment, but just kirtan, making garlands for Gopalju, the deity, and reading. So by the time he was like 5, 6, 7, he had read Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he was speaking it to the villagers. Wow. Like that. So such a personality. His astrology said that he did not come from this material world, and that he would be an acharya that would preach all over the world. So when he was, I think, something like 44, he had I remember maybe 7 children, something like that, and he just left his wife, he left the family, and he went to renounce. They asked him that you just sign one piece of paper that your family will get some kind of pension when you're gone. He said, now I've surrendered to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, said that I'm not signing anything. I have nothing to do with this material world anymore. And then he just left. He said, Krishna will take care. I've surrendered to Krishna, Krishna will take care. And definitely Krishna took care. And then he traveled throughout India looking for that guru that would take him in the path of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because from a youth, he was always singing the songs of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, Lochan Das Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was just completely immersed in this his whole life. That was he didn't know anything else. It's not that he wanted to own something of the wealth of the acharyas. He didn't know anything else. So he was looking, where will I find that guru who will deepen? He was already so deep. It's practically speaking, when he was a teacher, he would give Bhagavatam classes and Ramayana. And before he would give, he said, I have to go and ask the Lord. If he gives me permission, then I speak. If he doesn't give me permission, I don't speak. He was like that. This was before meeting Srila Prabhupada. So then he traveled north to the Himalayas, and there were so many yogis. He told them, this is not the time for yogi, this is the time for taking shelter of Harinam. They kicked him out. He said, okay, so I'll go to Krishna's own place, Vrindavan, and there Krishna will fulfill my desire. And then when he went to Vrindavan, then he saw the Back to Godhead magazine. He saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He saw Srila Prabhupada. And then something stirred in his heart. He said, I want to meet that guru. So then he went to Krishna Balaram Mandir. Prabhupada was there. Brahmananda Swami let him in. And then when he started to speak to Srila Prabhupada asked him so many questions. Srila Prabhupada said, so have you taken sannyas? He said, no. Prabhupada said, I will give you sannyas. Wow. Then he said that I knew that this is my guru, because there was heart-to-heart connection. Srila Govinda said that, he said, Prabhupada has been training me for many, many lifetimes. He says, my relationship with Prabhupada is going on many, many, many lifetimes. Prabhupada has been training me. So then he reunited with his eternal guru. Just like the Bhagavatam is manifest and unmanifest. So he was in his unmanifest stage in his relationship with Prabhupada, and then through the Leela, then the manifest state came. And then immediately he was serving Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was engaging him in translating books. Then he sent him to Bhubaneswar, and there he was in Bhubaneswar, and the devotees, they couldn't stay. They would come for like 2 days, 3 days, a week, they would leave. Bhagavad Maharaj, he went, and then Bhagavad Maharaj said, hey, Gour Govinda, I'm senior to you. So we have to leave this place. This place is no good. We have to leave. And then he was forced, because Bhagavad Maharaj forced him to leave. So then he went to Prabhupada. And then he asked Prabhupada, I think it was in Allahabad, he asked Prabhupada, oh, I want to take sannyas. And Prabhupada said, do you know what it means to take sannyas? You have to know that Krishna is always there with you. You never feel yourself alone. And he was quiet. And devotees were there wondering, did Prabhupada say yes or did Prabhupada say no? Mm-hmm. And they couldn't understand what Prabhupada said. So then when there was the opening Krishna Balaram temple, I think 1974, then Tripurari was taking sannyas. And Gour Govinda Maharaj, he was brought up in a Brahmin family, so he knew how to do all the yajnas, everything. So he was a priest performing the sannyas ceremony. But there were 2 sannyas cloths. They said, who's the second person? And then when it was time for sannyas to go and put on their sannyas cloth, then he got up, and then he went and put a cloth. They said, oh, so Prabhupada did say yes. Wow. So then then at the end, the sannyasis, then they have to speak. And then when Gour Govinda Maharaj spoke, then Prabhupada was touched, and he said, oh, he has understood what is sannyas. So like that, he went back to that land, and then he stayed there. He was staying in a kind of hut where dacoits were living. They were smoking ganja, this, that, and he just somehow, it was on the land, and he just stayed there with nothing. And then he didn't even know how to ride a bike. He told me one time, he said, as a kid, I didn't know anything about material. I didn't even know how to ride a bike. So one young boy, Sachinandan, was schoolboy. When he wasn't in school, he'd take him on the bike, and then they go and they do bhiksha, and they start going to the villages, and then from that, then this Krishna Balaram Mandir in Bhubaneswar, And Prabhupada said that it would be one of the very best projects. And even today, it is thriving. Hundreds of brahmacharis, very, very simple like that. And my god brothers and god sisters, they're really working hard to maintain the legacy of Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj. Because after time, things in this material, everything will pass. But for now, they're maintaining
Holding
the legacy.
the fort.
They're holding the fort of Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj. Yeah.
So at this point, when Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj left his body, then you had two gurus that fell. Now Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj is no longer present. What's the feeling now at this point?
Ooh. When Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj was on the planet, and we would travel with him, then it was like when the cowherd boys are with Krishna and there's some opposition. Let me just use the word opposition.
Okay.
Then the cowherd boys, they always knew that Krishna was going to win. It's just a matter of how Krishna is going to win. So when Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj was traveling, you see, historically speaking, ISKCON was going through a very difficult time because so many acharyas had fallen down. So then the army, which is those young devotees going out distributing, so many of them were without spiritual masters, and so their faith was broken. So it was a tough time for many. And even the god brothers of the gurus, they felt that they had taken an unnecessarily high position that they were not really qualified to take. So it required somebody to really get everything straight as to...
The standard?
No, just to help people understand what is Guru Tattva. What is Guru Tattva? Who is Guru? Who's qualified to be Guru? So Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj was that person who came to steady the ship and really present Guru Tattva. So before he'd give class, for like 45 minutes, he'd have his introduction, and then he'd speak on Guru Tattva. And when he would speak, because he's somebody who's coming from the transcendental realm, even before this had happened, he was, I think maybe in the 80s, he was at the disappearance function of Srila Bhaktivedanta Ashram Maharaja, and he went into ecstasy for 2 months. Now, if you study Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Ujjwala Nilamani, it explains that when you go into different states, you have of Asasadvik Bhav, you have Dumayita, which is like one of the different symptoms which are manifest. It manifests for a very short period of time. Then you have Dwalita, which is 2 or 3. It manifests a longer time. Then you have Dipta, Udipta, Sudipta. So there's a length of time that they manifest, but he was manifesting these symptoms for like 2 months. So then when he finally came out of that, then he started to manifest his Acharya Lila and preach. So now that he's coming and he's preaching and he's roaring like a lion, then those who are taking positions of guru, who weren't necessarily qualified to be in that position, they were exposed because people could see this is a guru. And then this is a sincere devotee maybe, but he's not that. And with this type of exposure, then devotees, they would try and block Srila Gour Govinda Maharaj. And he would say that when the clouds come, that those clouds are good because they come to block the sun, but the sun ultimately will manifest. So as an acharya, he was manifesting, and we were traveling with him, and anybody that would come to present some kind of philosophical opposition, they were crying, and it was just fun to see how it would happen like that. So this was Taranga Rangini for us. It had nothing to do with us, but we were riding the waves of his ecstasy, and we were just on that wave. And then all of a sudden, with no pre-warning, right, he just leaves. like that. I was there in Mayapur when he was speaking Harikatha to some Prabhupada disciples, and he was speaking when Krishna, he left Vrindavan, and after so many decades, finally he goes back, and then at that point, he just left his body, and it was like the world was just crushed, and it was like reality check. It's like, okay, now it's you and the world. And actually, up until that point, from the time I joined the movement, up until that point, I had never used a four-letter word. Even though I used four-letter words before being a devotee, I never used a four-letter. But from that point, just four-letter words were just streaming out of my mouth, like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? So then he left in Mayapur at the time of the appearance of Srila Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada. So devotees were telling us this is very auspicious, that his samadhi should be done in Mayapur. But I was with him earlier that day, and he was having so much opposition from his godbrothers, and he personally told me, he said, this place is a nasty place, means the environment of politics. He said, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. So here I am, a complete neophyte, but I'm the oldest of my godbrothers. And so I have to make a decision. Are we staying or are we going?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then they took me to Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj. And then Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, he said that this is Mahaprabhu's place. He's left in Mahaprabhu's place. This is very auspicious. And I didn't know the position of Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj. I said, no, we're going to Bhuvaneshwar. And then we left. Now, many of my godbrothers are still debating this point, and I've been mute about it. And they don't get on my case because they don't know I'm the person who did it.
Okay.
But we went, and then went to Bhuvaneshwar, did the samadhi there, and then immediately we came back to Mayapur. And then when we came back to Mayapur, because we had total faith in Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja, and because we saw, I was Srila Gour Maharaj's European secretary, so I had to deal with the opposition that he had. And I had to deal with his godbrothers banning him from their preaching zones. I was the person who had to do it. So we didn't have faith at all, practically speaking. So then we thought what to do. So we went across the river and went to meet with Srila Narayana Maharaj, asked, what do we do here? At that time, Srila Narayana Maharaj, he was preparing for the Navratri festival. And so there were many brahmacharis upstairs in the veranda. And at the end, he was sitting with Srila Bhaktivedanta Vamana Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivedanta Trikram, Srila Bhaktivedanta Prayatak Maharaj, other sannyasis. And then we're like at the other end, 8 of us, just like completely lost. We've just done the samadhi for our guru. And like, what do we do? And then as soon as I saw Srila Narayana Maharaj, then immediately I knew. I'd never really had contact with him before, except just seeing him come in Krishna Balaram, not Krishna Balaram, in Chandradoya Mandir. And then immediately I knew, that's my guru. That's my guru, my Shiksha guru. And then after his meeting was over with the brahmacharis, then he took us into his room, and then he said, you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful. He gave it may be a bit controversial if I say, no, he said, they're going to try and kill your faith. He said, and I saw it happen.
But what
I saw it happen live. I saw it happen. Because when we went to Bhuvaneshwar, then you didn't want to go here, but we're here. When we went to Bhuvaneshwar, then you had ISKCON gurus and sannyasis come and sit on the same Vyasasana that Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja spoke, and the same message that he spoke, they spoke diametrically and opposed, and were going completely against it, even though they would never do that when he was on the planet. In fact, when he was on the planet, they'd hide rather than come in front. And now they came. I saw it, So, what was your question?
What made you go to Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj? You barely knew him. And why would you go outside the...
We didn't know him at all, but we just, first of all, as disciples of Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja, we were trained that we should honor pure devotees. And we're trained that we should honor pure devotees regardless of the institution. So our temple in Birmingham was within ISKCON, but we were different from the rest of ISKCON. By this time, I just had disciples of Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja who were with us in the temple. So we were like an anomaly within ISKCON, basically. So we had faith that Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaj, that he's a pure devotee of the Lord, even though we really didn't know him.
Just from hearing about him.
Just from hearing about him. One or two of our God brothers, they had met him, and we'd read his books. So we had even when Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja was on the planet, one time we're traveling in ISKCON, we got Venu Geet of Srila Narayana Maharaj, and we gave it to Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja. He stayed up all night reading. He just read it. He's a voracious reader, and he just read it and then just kept on going in his program. And he made some very, very astounding comments about Gurudev, which I will not share.
Okay.
So then we had faith that this is somebody who can guide us. So then we left, but at that time I knew that I was going to be with Srila Narayana Maharaj, but I was a temple president, and so I didn't tell anybody. I just kept it to myself. And even Srila Dwaiti Maharaj, he was then Jantakrit, he was there at the meeting, and then he would say, "Hey, are you okay? Okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." But actually, I was like really, I was so much hit by that first meeting with Srila Gurudev, Srila Narayana Maharaj, that I knew that this was the biggest truth of my life, that I was going to be with him, and that if I didn't end up with him, that this would be the biggest denial of my life. I was just waiting to see how is this going to play out. So then a few months later, he makes his first European tour. Yeah, he goes to Holland. My vice president, who's my godbrother, he went to the Holland tour, and immediately he told Srila Narayana Maharaj, he said that you should come to our temple. My temple president is very open-minded. He will have you, right? Without telling me anything. Now, in my heart, I'm already with Gurudev. I'm already with him, but I can't reveal because I'm telling. And all the devotees in my temple are trained that you honor a pure devotee. So when they hear that Srila Narayana Maharaj is in Holland and he's coming to England, all are like ecstatic. And then now he's coming to our temple, they're over the moon. My GBC calls me up, "Govi, you didn't invite Narayana Maharaj, did you?" I said, "No." Then, actually, I think after that, he was invited. Then he said, "Just tell him that he can't come." And then I had a meeting with my godbrothers. And then they said, "No, tell him that we're really sorry, but because we invited him, we don't want to make Vaishnava aparad. So we'll have him this time, but we won't have him again."
Okay.
Gurudev only needed one time. Only needed one time. He came, and then all the devotees from my temple. Oh, actually, what happened was so all devotees in my temple had.
This was in 1996. Huh?
This was in 1996, in summer 1996, and then Srila Narayana Maharaj, Gurudev, he had when he was coming, the devotees decided that they were going to travel with him, because the devotees in my temple, they're just like beyond the institutional kind of consideration, especially because I was preaching that like heavily. And I even brought so many different sannyasis to come and speak. But then when Srila Narayana Maharaj came, they all went and traveled with him. So the regional secretary of England, and I couldn't travel because I was temple president, so I had to keep up my position. And I literally got sick that everybody was going, and I just had to hold down the fort. And then he called me up, he said, "Look, we should go and we should hear Srila Narayana Maharaj and hear what he has to say." And he said, "You and I, we're going to travel here." And immediately I had my in, how I could go as a representative of the society, but go to every class of Gurudev. And up until that point, I had a fever, I couldn't go. And then all of a sudden, my fever just disappeared, and I was jumping and dancing. I'm going. Then he called me up, like a day before Gurudev came. He said, "Actually, my wife said I can't go." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because if you go, he may take you with him." He said, "But you go." you go and represent us. And then I was free. And in this way I went and traveled with Gurudev.
From that time
on? In England, and then after that, what happened was in October was Kartik. So when it was time for Kartik, then the whole temple went. And instead of going, all of us went to Gurudev's parikram. And then all my devotees surrendered to Gurudev.
Wow.
And then at that point, I thought, okay, I've done my job. I'm going to retire. I'm just going to chant, distribute books, and that's it. And then Gurudev called me in and said, I want you to take care of all these devotees. Then I said, because I accepted him as my Shiksha Guru, I said, this gets controversial. I said, but Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja, he never left ISKCON. He never left ISKCON. He left his body before leaving ISKCON because there were rumors that he was going to be expelled from ISKCON right before he left his body. So then he said, Spiritual Master gives periodical instructions and eternal instructions. He said, if your Spiritual Master saw the situation, that he would condone that you come and you come with me. And because I accepted him as my Shiksha Guru from the heart, not just externally, then I said, okay, I'm going to take a leap of faith, but you have to catch me. And Gurudev's been catching me ever since.
Wow. You know, it was after that England trip that he came to Houston. And that's when I first went.
Really?
Of course, he came to Houston to our home. So, 1996.
Wow.
Somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Right after England.
He was carrying Vraj, the bridge buses, the gopis, Nanda Babas, cowherd boys, all of them were with him, and mercy was just flowing. Sweet, very, very sweet. Very, very sweet.
And I remember, obviously, many times you came to Houston during those tours.
Yeah, I came. Not every time, but
Not
I
every
came.
time.
I came, yeah.
So when Gurudev gave you the instruction that you should be with me, then you sort of just gave up the temple president position, and
Well, what
there must have
happened?
been some
Yeah.
problems there.
When I went back to England, then the GBC sent somebody to pick me at the airport.
Okay, sounds.
And they picked me at the airport and took me straight to the GBC secretary.
Okay.
To the GBC. And then he said, okay, Govi, this is what we're going to do. We're going to say those boys didn't know what they're doing, and everything is repelled the initiations they had, because I had a lot of young devotees who were going to take initiation from Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja. Now they went to Gurudev. So then I said, Maharaj, I'm tired. Everybody knew exactly what they're doing. Do what you have to do. And I mean, that GBC is my friend till today. I mean, we're close friends. So we don't see each other for like every 10, 15 years, but we have a history where we've been through it together. And he was also following Srila Narayana Maharaj. And when Srila Narayana Maharaj was receiving problem and they stopped the ISKCON people, anyway, let me not tell his business. So then we had some apartments across the road, which we had for like life membership thing. So then the devotees, we moved out and we moved across the road and we started the Gour Govinda Gaudiya across the road from the ISKCON temple.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, because we were a big book distribution temple. I left them a lot of money. I left them a lot of books. But the only thing I took was the Murti of Srila Prabhupada. And we had a big war. Finally, Srila Narayana said, just give it back to them. Give it back to them.
Okay.
I'll give him back. And then I gave Prabhupada back.
Wow. And then you just started traveling with Gurudev.
Yeah. After that, then I started traveling with Gurudev.
So you have to tell us some experiences there and tell us about Srila Gurudev.
Yeah. So, traveling with Gurudev in the beginning, because I was supposed to be somebody who had somewhat of a position in ISKCON. So immediately Gurudev expected me to speak. So Madhav Maharaj was there, Shamrani Didi was there, Prem Prayojan was there, another devotee, Pundarik Prabhu was there, all very, very good speakers. And here I was, I had just taken shelter of Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja, and then the Siddhanta that Gurudeva was presenting in such a systematic way was like next level, next level, next level, next level. And I don't know how Prem Projan was able to master it like so quickly, but without missing a step, he was speaking as well as, or with all due respects, at least from an intellectual, material perspective, better than the devotees who were trained by Gurudeva for years. I was watching. And so I had to also get up and speak in that association, and that was nerve-wracking, actually. Because first of all, I appeared to be very kind of outward going, etc., but actually I'm shy. And also I have a lot of vata and I'm spaced out. So then Gurudev said, okay, you speak on this, you speak on this, you speak on this. So everybody was going on the waves of Gurudev's ecstatic tour, but I was always in a state of panic of when's he going to call me and what am I going to have to speak on, right? And I would be up, I wouldn't sleep. I just have to study and cram and study everything, And this went on for such a long time, And then after a certain point, then he says, oh, you're going to take sannyas. And then I say, oh my God, now, this is worse. It already was intense. This is like completely worse. And I'm a cynic. And in ISKCON, I used to laugh at the sannyasis within, because there were so many fall downs like that. And then I said, now you are a hypocrite, you lusty guy, and you're going to take sannyas. So the day of my sannyas, I went to Gurudeva to say, Gurudev, we can't do this. I'm not doing it. And then I went there, this was in Navadvip, 2001. And then Savita, you know Savita?
Savita Didi.
Yeah, Savita Didi, she was there with her friends, and they're going, And then I said, I don't care, I'm going to tell him. And then I just went up to Gurudev, and I was going to tell Gurudev, I can't do this. Genealogically, this is not. I come from a polygamous family. I'm very lusty. Amongst all my cousins and everything, I am easily the most passionate. I can't do this. This won't work. He looked at me and said, stop. Your qualification is your honesty. Get ready to take sannyas. Wow. He just stopped me in my tracks. Wow. And then I was like, oh my God. And Gurudev is such a jokester, and with his eyes, beautiful blue eyes, look, he said, I got you. and then I left, and I was just like in a state of panic. So then Gurudev was meeting with all the devotees on the roof, about 500 Western devotees, and he said, yes, and Govinda Bhakata will give him sannyas, and I know he will not fall down. Because he's so black and ugly, nobody will have him. And go say, ha, 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 in front of all the devotees. I said, whatever's your will, Gurudev. Yeah. So then it was time for the mantra. Then Gurudev, he gave the mantra, and then he took us to Srila Bhaktivedanta Maharaj. There were a few of us who took sannyas that year. And then Srila Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, he's the Acharya. And he gave the mantra. And then when it was time to give you my name, then Gurudev said yes, and he will be Bhaktivedanta Govinda Maharaj. And I was, yeah, Govinda Maharaj. And then Srila Maharaj's servant, he said, but we already have a Govinda Maharaj. And then Madhav Maharaj counted, he will be Videshi Govinda Maharaj, and the other one will be Bengali Govinda Maharaj. Madhav Maharaj, quick. So then all the time Vamaraj was just sitting down, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Hare. And everything was just passing through, Hare Krishna, Krishna. And then all of a sudden, hey, we already have a Govinda Maharaj. And then Guru said, okay, he'll be Ashram Maharaj. It's like he had it already, He said, he'll be Ashram Maharaj. And then when I got the mantras from these two Bhaktivedantas, that it completely, immediately, all my material desires were gone. I was I was a different person. I was completely in a different realm of existence. And I was just completely amazed by the power of the mantras of those two Bhaktivedantas. I was lifted up, way up there. And that lasted for a good 2-3 weeks, month. But my Nama Parad brought me back down. But I directly, we say Diksha Kali Bhakta Koryatma Samapanse Kali Krishna Tori Koryatma Sam, that you take Diksha and then gradually you come to the transcendental platform. They took me up there, immediate, zoom, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, when they would give their mercy and somebody would be immediately lifted to a transcendental realm. They gave me that type of experience so I could understand what is the power of their mantras.
Wow. I have so many questions, but I'll just ask you a few of them if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Taking a step back, you said you used to cram and study a lot to prepare yourself to speak.
That's how I got high blood pressure. There's so much pressure on me that, because when you with Gurudev Srila Narayana Maharaj and you're one of his preachers, then you have to be ready at every second, and everything that you say, it has to be minutely right. Otherwise, he'll just cut you. It has to be so minutely right.
So when you're studying the works of the Acharyas, Gurudev's books?
If he's speaking on a certain book, whether it be Sri Bhajan Rahasya, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, or Upadeshamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, then I study, because my memory is such that it's there, but I have to recollect it again and then get it all. Otherwise, I kind of misplace this event with that event, and I mix things up. And you can't do that with him at all, especially with the other preachers who are there, because they're computers. They're literally computers. So you have to get your mind to be like a computer also.
Just perfect Siddhanta, basically.
Perfect. Anything slightly off, and it's sit down.
Yeah, I remember in all the tours I've been with, in all the preaching events, he would just point a finger and right away you'd have to speak exactly whatever topic.
Exactly.
And then you'd have to take it to a topic that also he would like. Meaning you'd have to nourish the topic and continue to raise higher and higher.
Yes. That's why after some time, when other sannyasis other devotees were given sannyas, and then it wasn't just myself, Prem Prayojan, and Madhav Maharaj, because Madhav Maharaj never traveled with us. He used to go off traveling on his own. So when other sannyasis were there, it was like, relief. It's not so intense anymore.
Right. And so you're traveling with Gurudeva almost full time at this point?
Yeah. I was the temple president of the new Gaudiya Math, but somebody was taking care of it on my behalf, and I was overseeing, and then I was traveling with Gurudev. But to be honest with you, devotees, Shamrani, Prem Prayojan, Brajnath Prabhu, Vrinda Didi, they were always with Gurudev. But sometimes I would drop out, just because it was so intense. I just had to take a breath. It was too intense for me. And I really looked at them and said, how they can handle this intensity, I don't know. So I was there a lot, but there were sometimes I wasn't there. Mm-hmm. That was me just taking a breather.
Mm-hmm. And so with Gurudeva, you traveled many years. Did you also travel in Africa at that point, whenever you took your break, or separately?
I traveled in Africa in 95, 96 with Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja. That time, right before he left the world, I was there because my father passed away right before Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja, so I did his burial dinner. So then with Gurudev, I may have done, let me see, 96 to down. Yeah, I did actually. I did. I would go there. I opened my house. I made my house a temple, basically, in Africa. Yeah, and I did some preaching there. But I wasn't sustaining it, but I was doing preaching, and I was also doing philanthropic work. We used to sponsor eye cataract operations, give water to the poor, do food distribution programs. And yeah, after some years, we even had deity of Mahaprabhu that was there in the temple, and things were going on, but I wasn't able to focus on it in a very, very strong way, so it wasn't coming up as it should.
So when you were with Srila Gurudev, can you share some experiences with him and tell us what was the speciality of him that you experienced?
With Srila Gurudev, though Srila Gurudev was and is such a powerful personality, so much Shakti, but he didn't manifest it so much like that. But what manifested was his Lokik Satbandhubat. Lokik Satbandhubat means in Vrindavan, the residents of Vraj, they never think that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But they just think that, oh, Krishna is my Lala. Oh, that Krishna is my friend. That not only is he my friend, I can beat him. That Krishna is my beloved. They have this mood, very, very loving exchange. And in this mood, in this sweetness, there's so much strong praying that is not experienced anywhere else. So similarly, gurus, acharyas, when they manifest their Acharya Leela, they manifest this mood that they're Sevak Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Service to Godhead, with so much, they worship with some awe and reverence, pomp, like that. Prabhupada, he had that. Even though Prabhupada is obviously a Brijbasi, but he manifested that Acharya Leela where he was worshipped in that way. But Gurudev, he didn't come like that. Gurudev came just with sweetness as a friend. I was so used to that mood of awe and reverence that times Gurudev would say, yeah, you can sit here. And I said, no, I can't sit there. And which, nothing wrong with that. But his mood was one of friend. And what really brought me to Gurudev, or made me close to Gurudev, was how he made himself so vulnerable and put himself in a position as a conditioned soul, that he wasn't a conditioned soul, obviously. And not that directly he put himself as a conditioned soul, but he just brought himself on my level. And he related to me like that. Like sometimes we'd be in Parikram and it was raining, and he'd say, yeah, come and sleep with us, come and stay with us. I was like panic stricken, no, that's not my position. Or he would say one time that, yes, I'm getting old, so I'm forgetting the references. So sometimes I'll say something which is different from Chaitanya Bhagavat, but you just go with Chaitanya Bhagavat, don't mind, it's just my old age, like that. And, he's Supreme Personality of Godhead. That means that, he's fully cognizant, he doesn't make any mistakes, but he's openly just saying, I'm getting old and these things are happening, like that. And the fact that he was able to, sometimes without me asking him, then he would just offer something. Like one time, I guess maybe I was having some kind of disagreement with Bon Maharaj, and then he'd say that, oh, he's our best preacher, right? He'd say something like that. Or another time, he would say, I'd say, Gurudev, this process is so difficult. And then he said, I did it. I went through this process and I achieved the goal. You can do it. You can do it. I'm saying it's difficult. I say, no, you can. And just like that, he just, without me initiating anything, he would just do things like that. Because I was always a bit reserved, because I come from an African background. You're reserved with your elders a little bit, and also ISKCON, you're reserved, and I'm just like that. But Gurudev would just like offer himself to me. He would just offer himself to me. And he would do it in such a sweet way. But behind that is like all the power, but he didn't show that. But it was all there, but he didn't show that. He only showed the sweetness. And with the sweetness, with his love and affection, he conquered everybody.
That was two frequently used words in almost every Gurudev's Katha,
Yeah.
is love and affection.
He is the embodiment of love and affection. Every atom of his body is love and affection because it's the love and affection of the Brijbasis. This is the unique aspect of Gurudev, his love and affection. And this is his legacy that he spread for all time, that especially through his books, which are presenting the love and affection of the Brijbasis and the process to enter into that love and affection. So Gurudev is that main person within our family of Bhaktivinoda Thakur who is established beyond a shadow of a doubt that our line is a bona fide, it always has been, but people have doubted, but even the doubters now, they cannot say anything when they see the life, teachings, the books of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Maharaj, that this is this Rupa Nuga lion. Not only will they accept, but now they're going and they're reading his books and they're studying his books, and in public, even those who were against before, in public, they're reading his books and studying like this. So this is his unique contribution to our Guru Parampara, because not only is he establishing that we are, that he's establishing beyond a shadow of a doubt to the doubters that we are Rupa Nuga Lion, but he's showing the process in minute detail how you come from the point of one who is full of anarthas and how gradually you get a tendency towards Raganuga, and then you go step by step and then you enter into that process of Ragmarg. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has done that, but Srila Narayana Maharaj has done it in an even more, in a more clear way, actually, in a more clear way.
So after Srila Gurudev's departure, then what did you do? And we're sitting here in 2025 almost, and now you're preaching in Africa, and in the smallest country in Africa, or one of the smallest countries in Africa?
One of the smallest, probably not the smallest, but it's a small country, yeah.
And you're preaching the mission of your Guru Maharajas and the Guru Parampara. And what is that like in Africa, now that you're kind of on your own and you've got the power of the mercy of those acharyas? Then what is that like?
Well, we're never alone. First of all, we're never alone. That our gurus are always there with us. Without our gurus, then we cannot have any real tangible success. There may be some temporary success, but any tangible success cannot come. So when Gurudev had left the planet, then by this time I knew what I had to do. I knew what I had to do. I had been through so many different situations like that. So it was mainly just to carry on, and now to pass the test of Gurudev. Because when Gurudev leaves, then it is just that he's manifesting this departure, but he's still there and he's testing to see how you'll do in his absence. So I'm always ready for contact, I'm always ready. So I know Gurudev is watching, he's there. And not only Gurudev, Srila Gour Govinda Maharaja is there, Srila Prabhupada is there and watching. And so I just take it as the opportunity that now it's time to step up your game. It's time to step up, basically, and pass the test. So we just have to see what grade we get. But that's what it is. The test time, when Guru leaves, now is the examination time. Let's see how you do. Let's see what you've learned.
One time you told Haripriya and I, you just got to slug it out. I'll never forget that, really.
Yeah.
You just got to slug it out, is that what?
Yeah. Because Guru...
This was when you were in Miami.
Okay. Guru can immediately lift us and just float us beyond the three modes of mature nature into Vrindavan. Immediately he can do. But he wants to see how we're going to do when we have to really work hard and endeavor. And then at any moment, or sometimes he'll just give a taste, just let you know, I'm here, I've got you, but I'm just watching you to see how you do. And then you just have to slug it out, basically. And then step by step, then he starts to give drips of mercy. Srup Shakti is coming. And then gradually that Srup Shakti becomes thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker. And then after a while, you're not slugging, but you're floating. But that's the process. That's the test of Guru.
So what made you want to go to Africa?
Well, basically...
This is all very recent.
Yeah. My mother passed away we're in 2024, so I guess it was 2022, August 2022, something like that. And I went to do her memorial in the village in Nigeria. And then my idea was, I spent 2-3 years taking care of my mother, and after that, then I'd pretty much go to Vrindavan, Navadvip, and spend most of my time doing sadhana and bhajan and coming and doing a little bit of preaching. That was my idea. So I went to do her memorial in the village, and then I thought, let me just travel to Ghana from Nigeria, because I've never traveled by road to these places. And then the next country is Benin. And then I went to Benin, and there's a young lady from London whose parents, her father comes from Benin, and he had a house that was empty, and they let me and Shantamar stay in the house. And then some local devotees, they came, and we had some programs, and it was really nice. And I thought, this is a nice place. And then I saw that the property was really cheap. And I'm a businessman. I said, really? I mean, like really cheap. Like going towards Nigeria, then you have plots of land, right, on the ocean, selling for $6,000 a plot. Right?
Wow.
It's not by the city center where the prices go up, right? But when I heard, I said, what? So then I just started exploring, and kind of like my business side clicked in. And then at the same time, I noticed that the country is just like really peaceful. The people are just like really peaceful and really chill. And they have a natural spiritual side to them. So I was supposed to go to Ghana, but I never made it to Ghana. I just stayed there, and then I told one of the devotees who I trained in Nigeria, comes from Benin, and I told him, okay, you look and see if we can rent a place. And they found a place, and it was kind of expensive, but by American, British standards, it was really cheap, like a big 8-bedroom house with 3 halls and good yard, everything for like $500 a month, and nice place. So then I said, okay, let's go for that. And the preaching just exploded. We have simple rules. We do Harinam every day. They should be doing Harinam every day, okay? Before you take any morsel of food, you chant your prescribed number of rounds, whether it's 16, 25, 32, what have you. We have a young girl, 9 years old. She does 10 rounds before she takes any food, before she goes to school, anything like that. When she goes to school, it goes down a little bit. And then we go out and we do food distribution. But everything we do, Harinam is in the forefront. So before we give out the food, the prasad, then we have kirtan. And the people just responded. And kirtan has just taken over the place, basically. And our success is only chanting Harinam and following our Guru Parampara. It's all based on Harinam. There's nothing other than that. It's simple. It's really simple.
I think, back to that simplicity, especially coming from your history of going out, doing book distribution, Harinam, that sort of simplicity is probably coming and flowing at this point. And now you've got both an African and an Indian community I've seen joining. And this is the first Gaudiya Math in Benin, is that?
Definitely. I mean, there's an ISKCON contingent there, but they didn't really have a temple at that point. They have a temple now, but this is, before we went there, no Gaudiya Math person had even stepped in Benin before. And practically speaking, the Benin people don't know anything about any Gaudiya Vaishnavas. But The Indian community has been great. They've been great. Even today I was speaking to members of the Indian community. They're going to Akka to be looking to buy land and build a temple. So they're going to their contacts and getting the budget, and they're doing things without me asking. They're just chipping in and doing it. It's very inspiring. And all they need is just a little bit of Hare Katha, a little bit of sweet words, and that's it. That's it. So I have a cornerstone of the Indian community, and then the African community also. I have a lot of young men who come. Not all of them live in the temple. Very few live in the temple. They still live outside. But we're family, basically. You know, it's not like I'm your guru or this. It's nothing like that. It's purely family. They're initiated. I let them get initiated by other people. But I'm the father.
Maharaj, is there anything else you would like to share?
No, that's it.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for sharing so many wonderful experiences and your story, and also some very beautiful realizations, Maharaj. And I pray that one day some of those realizations come in my heart, and maybe I can serve the Guru Parampara, Srila Gurudeva.
You've gone far beyond me in previous lives.
No.
You're just manifesting your Grihastha Lila.
You're so kind, Maharaj.
Hari Bol.
And I'll leave a link down in the comment box below for those of you who want to learn about Maharaj's efforts in Benin and West Africa. You can visit his website and follow him, and then reach out to him if you would like. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hari Bol.